Discussions of technology in children's lives typically revolve around the use of social media and smartphones. But to my mind, this is a relatively minor issue compared to the use of various software to control and manage children. And it typically comes in two forms: behavior management software and tools used to monitor children's use of computers and smartphones. With the behavior management software, basically what happens is schools will have like these system-wide programs that basically like monitor and track different aspects of children's behavior, and sometimes they'll put in points, so they'll have like a point system, and then the different adults can kind of see it, and they can use this to determine if further evaluation is needed or discipline or something like that. And with the use of tools to monitor kids' use of digital devices, they basically have the ability to track everything that the child does on there. So they can look at, Google searches made or, messages sent, tabs open, and in some cases, like the exact content of their messages, etc. And so with both of these things, there's a very profound panopticon effect happening. The scale and speed of the spread of this technology is really staggering. So these tools have become virtually universal across the country. So they experienced a kind of meteoric rise in the 2010s, and then since the pandemic have become virtually universal. So the behavior management tools, for example, are used in approximately 95% of schools around the country. That's the most widely quoted estimate. And I'm generally of the belief that tools aren't really bad in and of themselves, whether it's software or psychiatric drugs or anything else. The problem is that these things, when it comes to children, are often used in very destructive ways, and I would argue aren't really coming from that good of a place. And the reason for this is because they're coming out of an approach to controlling and conditioning children that is already authoritarian and dehumanizing. So these software have really turned children's lives into a kind of totalitarian techno dystopia. And like with all of these things that we've been discussing on this channel, there hasn't really been good discussion as to how these things might actually shape kids and what the consequences might be. No, the adults just kind of tell themselves a nice story and then shut out things that contradict that. But make no mistake, that level of scrutiny and control profoundly shapes you. And I would say the ultimate consequence is that it kind of shuts down your inner voice, right? It shuts down your inner guidance, your intuition, any notion of a kind of sovereign personal destiny, if you will. And so it's something that fits within institutions that don't fundamentally view people this way. These kind of institutions and this kind of culture views people as inputs to be shaped according to the logic of that system, not according to some kind of deeper logic that comes from within, some kind of deeper truth that each of us have to figure out individually. So it would stand to reason that this kind of techno management and techno surveillance that's now universal in schools is a dehumanizing approach coming out of dehumanizing schools being implemented by people who are themselves dehumanized. And so these things have massive mental health implications, massive implications for people's potential, and they could really be screwing over huge populations of young people. Just to illustrate this further, imagine everything you're doing on your computer is monitored and surveilled, right? So every message sent, every Google search, every tab opened, everything that you're doing on that computer. That creates a kind of low-grade anxiety. There's that sense of being constantly watched and tracked, and ultimately you're going to modify yourself according to the judgment and the actions of the people who are scrutinizing you. And over the course of your childhood, this will radically shape you. And we don't even see it, right? Like you don't even know the you that you would have become if none of this had ever happened to you. And also, the adults that are evaluating us are often not really such enlightened, loving people. It's not just about monitoring our safety a lot of the time, right? A lot of adults police children's political views, their interests, their goals and desires with regards to relationships and all these different aspects of their lives. And they project all of their insecurities and unresolved things onto their children. And so these tools become a way of amplifying all of this dysfunction, but under this kind of for your own good delusion. And so the result of these tools is almost certainly a profound loss of self. We're less willing to express ourselves, to say what we really think, to explore different things we might be interested in, to express our own vulnerability, because things are so much more profoundly subject to the evaluation and the surveillance of these very unresolved people that have near total power over us now. And the kind of anxiety and insecurity that gets conditioned into us as a result of this really limits us. It really kind of scatters our force. And to condition people that way is an extremely unkind thing to do. Now, the flip side of this is that once we start to actually, if we choose to really start to look at this stuff and deal with it and kind of start to slowly release a lot of that conditioning, then it's very powerful, and we're able to kind of really unleash a lot of who we really are. And that's very profound and cool. So that's kind of the silver lining in all of this. And it's really weird to me that this kind of system has been so rapidly rolled out without much discussion or debate. And that the discussion when it comes to technology in kids' lives is almost universally about the use of social media and smartphones. But this is a lot more significant, it seems to me, because we have a lot more agency when it comes to our use of smartphones and social media. Yes, of course, we could get hijacked and, we don't have often total control over this. But at least we have the choice to not use those things if we're willing and able to. Whereas the same cannot at all be said of these tools to monitor and control children. They are just forced onto them. Children have no choice as to whether or not they are going to be profoundly shaped by them. And if you resist them, you are almost certainly going to be met with more non-consensual evaluation and coercion. You might be labeled with a mental illness and put on psychiatric drugs, labeled with a disorder that could seriously marginalize you in a long-term way. And so I wonder, how did this get rolled out without much discussion or much opposition at all? How did the school system just roll this out across the country like that? I would think that responsible, mature adults who want to use tools like this would have a better approach. Weighing the pros and cons, talking to all the relevant stakeholders to get their input and their consent, establish an ongoing discussion so that children, families, and communities can withdraw their consent at any time. But that obviously never happened, which is sad and disturbing. One of the key things for me about this, not just when it comes to these tools for managing children, but also the use of psychiatric medication, psychiatric labeling, social emotional learning, therapy for kids, all these tools that we're using supposedly to help kids, is the almost unrelenting ability of people to tell themselves a positive story about what they're doing, to convince themselves and each other that this is really a humanitarian and loving thing, to deny any selfish or small-minded motivations that they may have. And so they're not really exploring all sides of it, right? So to an outsider, they might be maybe we're just using all these medications here to kind of control children, like control their behavior, control their feelings that we don't like, suppress them, or maybe these tools are like turning children's worlds into a totalitarian techno dystopia. But there's just like this unlimited ability to deny all of those questions. And so they spend a lot more time on arguably propaganda, on rhetoric, rather than really thinking through these things, exploring all the sides, talking to all the people that might be affected by this, like especially the kids and the parents and the communities, and getting their consent, doing whatever it takes to make high quality decisions about something that is so consequential. So that is the techno dystopia that is shaping the young, now almost universally in the United States, and likely increasingly globally, because these things are almost certainly going to be exported elsewhere. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please also share this video with anybody who you think might enjoy it. Thank you for watching this, and I look forward to having you next time.